Hi, this is BK Black Krishna from manfulwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids to be, look, talk, and feel great, and locally discuss and share great online info offline as better people making better places to live worldwide. So check out manfulwars.com for more on that. And on that, this vlog is entitled, Will Men Save Women from Trans Athletes Beating the Shit Out of Them? Will men save women from trans athletes beating the shit out of women? And this is a problem in general, right? I mean, typically strong men don't beat their wives, don't have to use their physical strength to dominate somebody weaker. They don't pick on smaller men. They don't bully smaller men. They don't bully women. They don't bully children. Weak men do that. Strong men and the strong male archetype is protector and provider. So this is the exact opposite, right? This is the exact opposite. Is trans athletes competing against female athletes who are biologically female, whereas trans athletes who are males who decide to, in some way, be a female, whether it's, they still have all their male genitals and they just take some hormones, or maybe they put a little pink scrunchie in their hair and then they think they can mix it up with the chicks. I mean, that's insane, but that's where this goes, right? That's where this goes. These are not strong, compassionate men. These are not strong, compassionate women. These are lying, bitchy bullies, and this is the end point of what happens when masculinity is demonized to the point where there's nothing left but toxic femininity. Not toxic masculinity, but toxic femininity. Toxic feminine guys, toxic feminine girls, toxic feminine kids. And it's going to take traditional, confident masculinity to get us the hell out of this, because otherwise a bunch of miserable bitches empathizing with a bunch of other miserable bitches and letting them kind of get away with whatever bitchy bullying they want is what we're stuck with. And so I'll get into that in more detail in a second. There's a lot of this controversy in the news and in the media these days, and so I'll take you to an article that kind of inspired me to kind of make this vlog, and we'll pick it up from there. So this is from Breitbart News, Breitbart.com, which I recommend. Great news source for politics and pop culture information to sort of keep an eye on the bigger picture from a more conservative perspective, but they're pretty honest. And even when they do discuss liberals or leftists and so on, they'll pretty much lay out what they say, and they'll give them a fair shake and even give them credit when credit is due, as opposed to demonizing them, right? That's more of a liberal or leftist thing, right, where you shouldn't talk to anybody who's on the right, who's conservative. Don't talk to anybody who you disagree with if you're a leftist. And then, as part of that line of thinking, you aren't able to talk to each other, because what if you disagree? Or what if you want to make, one of your fellow leftist or liberal friends in Antifa or whoever, or even in the mainstream regular civilian culture, less messed up? Can you do that? Or do you have to be equally messed up as part of your way of thinking, right? So that's an issue. But this is from Breitbart.com. It says here, female roller derby leagues accepting men, quote, self-identifying as women. Breitbart.com. Female roller derby leagues accepting men self-identifying as women. And there's a shot of the article. And there's a shot of roller derby. And this is by Warner Todd Houston from October 1st, 2019. So it says here, transgender women, in brackets biological males, are apparently working their way into the once all-female sport of roller derby, and some female competitors are worried about their safety on the boards. So roller derby, and this picture kind of explains it, is kind of like roller skating with body checking. It's a combination of roller skating, not on ice, but on a sort of a gym floor with roller skates, and hockey, where you're allowed to body check and physically, batter people as part of the sport. Similar to hockey, similar to football, similar to other physical sports where you're literally physically banging into each other, unlike a sport like tennis where you're on different sides of the court hitting a little yellow ball back and forth, right? And so, this is where, the physicality of men and women, which is significantly different, comes into play, right? This is where men with bigger more upper body strength, more bone density, can really do some damage to a female, right? And that's why it's important for men out there who traditionally have defended women and children and been protectors and providers should man up and take a stand when it comes to these issues and this issue, right? And there are ways to do that without being seen as a bigot or a scumbag and so on. Except for the most extreme people who will call you that anyway. The average Joe and Jane, American, Canadian, whoever, will be like, you know what, you're trying to do the right thing for most people, and a couple of lying, bitchy bullies that want to get away with doing something unfair shouldn't be allowed to screw up others. And I think that most people are in favor of that. So I'll get into this article and make a couple of comments on it. Because it is a full contact sport, roller derby has always been a wholly segregated sport. It's not like beach volleyball. You're literally physically banging against each other, right? And I know this, and I'd never, ever, ever do this with women, right? Even in beach volleyball, right? I was playing beach volleyball a few years ago in Ottawa, Canada, the capital of Canada, at the Ottawa Hope Volleyball and Bikini Festival, basically, where you go there with a bunch of friends. There's a bunch of beach volleyball courts set up, and you play kind of co-ed. Volleyball with a bunch of your friends there, and a bunch of girls run around in bikinis. They work out all year to look good for this beautiful, summer day in July or whatever. And so I'm there with me and a bunch of my sort of mixed group of friends in Ottawa. I was typically from Toronto, but I was living in Ottawa at the time, just for a year. And I had some friends there and friends of friends and so on, and we all went out. And even in that beach volleyball setting, right? Beach volleyball, where it's 6 people on this side, 6 people on that side. I, being a grown-ass, badass dude, was sizing up the other athletes on the other sides of the net, and they were sizing me and a couple of my buddies up. And we were trying to figure out, as men, who are the men on the other side of the volleyball net who we can actually compete against. Not just kind of take it easy on or whatever, really kind of go at and go after, right? Because there's a couple of guys on our side that were athletes, right? I played tennis, volleyball, basketball, played football, baseball, soccer, a bunch of other sports in different ways. And I'm typically, you want to go, let's go, right? Like this, I'm a man, we're grown-ass men. Don't take it easy on me. I'm not going to take it easy on you. I am an athlete kind of guy, right? And there's some guys that are like that. There's some other guys that aren't like that. They're typically not athletic. They didn't typically mix it up athletically with other guys, so they're not typically used to that. You don't want to pick on them. You don't want to be a jerk as a man and pick on them. And, of course, you definitely don't want to pick on girls, right? And so sizing each other up on different sides. Oh, that guy. Okay, cool. He's got that look in his eyes like, oh, okay, you're good, you're good, you're good. That guy, oh, hey, how's it going? Friendly. No problem. Oh, girl. Hey, oh, you? Oh, you? Oh, you want it? All right. So you could see who you should serve overhand to, who you should try and pound a spike off their head, who you can be more physical with as a man, as an athletic man against another athletic man, right? So we were sizing each other up, and with those guys, boom, pound an overhead spike, pound an overhead serve, try and pound it off his forehead. With the other guys, no, underhand serve. With the girls, no, underhand serve or moonball serve or whatever, right? And so, we're playing the beach volleyball game, and there's still a difference between guys and guys that aren't athletes, and then girls, right? Total difference. Confident masculine strength meets and confirms the same, creates a safe space for confident feminine vulnerability. You don't treat girls like that. So, I was at the front of the net. Three in front, 3 in back, and there was a spike that was coming over the middle of the net, and I was on the left side. It was left, middle, right, And I saw the spike coming over, and there was a girl, co-ed beach volleyball, to my right. And there's somebody about to spike the ball down on our side in the middle above this girl, right? So I run from the left to the middle of the net, right? And there's a girl there, and I'm trying to get close to her but not hit her, and I'm trying to jump up and try to block the spike, right? And so I start running. I run towards the middle. The girl's there. She sees me, notices me run. She kind of freezes up, goes, eep, just bracing to kind of get bumped into by me while I try and make a play for the ball. I, as a man with a woman beside me, stop, a good sort of foot away from her, and just, boom, I couldn't quite get there in time. I couldn't quite block the spike. The person spiked it over. The girl was in front of me. She was like this. I was like, you okay? She's like, oh, I'm fine, fine. He smiled, done, right? And that's me with a girl. Now, if it was a guy beside me and he wasn't disabled or something, then I probably would have knocked that guy over to try and get the spike, right? And I would have picked him up and said, hey, sorry, buddy, owe you a beer. Let's go, whatever. But that's the difference between men and women, and that's a part of respect. Self-respect, respect for other men, and respect for women. And so as part of this, will men save women from trans athletes beating the shit out of them? This is part of that respect. And if you don't have this self-respect and respect for each other and respect for other men and women and different physical abilities, then you won't be able to show it and you won't be able to get it. So you can be a 6'5", 250-pound, massive, muscly monster of a man. But if you don't act like one, you're going to look, talk, and feel like shit. And other people aren't going to respect you for what you do with your size and strength, right? And that, some of these guys are just going, screw this. I can't get no respect as a man with other men, women, and children. Might as well turn into a chick or compete in chickie leagues. I mean, it gets that bad to the point where you're not just a mess, you're a mess making other people a mess and having total disregard for typical rules of physical contact when it comes to sports. So I bring up that example to show you the exact opposite of what these guys are doing when it comes to acting like a girl and demanding they get to compete against girls, right? I never want to compete against girls, right? I never want to compete. If you win, you're a jerk. If you lose, you're a wussy, right? I like arguing, fighting with girls, none of that shit, right? It happens sometimes, obviously more in relationships here and there and other situations. But typically, if you win, you're a prick. If you lose, you're a pussy, right? And so you want to try and avoid that type of competition as much as possible. Even playing a girl in pool. When I was 13, 14 years old or something, sneaking out from class in high school to go play pool at a local pool hall. Didn't know any better, didn't play pool much, wanted to play as well as I could every time I played. Played against a girl, beat her. I felt bad, she felt bad. I was like, I'm never doing that again. Screw this, right? Other guys, I'll play as hard as I can, but with a girl, I'll be a little more careful. Try and make sure that if I win, I don't beat her too bad, or make sure I can, she's not too bad, I can help her win or at least be competitive. There's a double standard there. And that double standard is part of respect, how you validate each other. It's not because one is better than the other or superior than the other. It's because when it comes to sports and physical abilities and that sort of thing, you want to make sure. And if there's a guy, who's 6'5", 250 pounds, and I'm 5'10", 165 pounds, average height, average weight, average build, and we're playing basketball, he could be a total jerk and just post me up every time, and I wouldn't even mind. I'd battle him as hard as I can, and I have, right? But in other situations, or when I've been the older, bigger guy, and I'm playing against a kid, say I'm a grown-ass 25, whatever-year-old guy, and I'm playing against a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, I'm not going to use my physical strength to overpower him in the post playing basketball. I'm going to be a little bit more creative. I'm going to back up. I'm going to work on my outside shot more. I'm not going to use my obvious physical advantages against somebody who I clearly have a physical advantage over. That's insane, right? And so I set that up to say that that is normal. And that is respectful. That is having self-respect. That is validating your own masculine strength, other people's different level of strength, other men's, and women's feminine vulnerability, right? That is respect. And if you don't have self-respect, you don't show and get it, and you're a mess, that's a problem. And that's, I think, contributing to this epidemic of guys going, screw this. I want to go there and mix it up with the girls in roller derby and rugby and football and hockey and whatever. It's like, dude, you're not taking being a girl seriously. You barely look like one. You still have your cock and balls. What are you doing? Well, I've been taking hormone treatments for like a few months. It's like, you're not serious. You're full of shit and a waste of time. Knock it off, right? If you're going to be good at it, go hard or go home. And if you've been a man for too long to be physically like a woman, you shouldn't get to compete against them, right? And this article goes into that. So, but I'll get into it. Because it is a full contact sport, roller derby has always been a wholly segregated sport. In the past, it was logically understood that women would not fare well physically against more powerful men in the rough and tumble sport of roller derby, right? But now, all that is going by the wayside as roller derby rushes to PC itself, politically correct itself, by allowing men claiming to be transitioning into women to join the sport. And that's a key, claiming to be, right? If you don't drop that tranny like it's NASCAR, you should just drop it, right? You can't just, I can't just be like me, guy, goatee, tie, shirt and tie, and then put on a little pink scrunchie in my hair or a little nail polish and then say, that's it, I'm a chick now. You got to let me in. It's like, you're not serious. You're shitty at it. You're not serious. You're uncomfortable. You're a joke, and you're turning this into a joke, right? And that's what's happening here, right? Because I don't mind, right? If most people straight are great at it, then people LGBTQ can be too. But to be great at being straight, men got to defend their cultures and defend their women and children from this type of bullshit. Otherwise, you're shitty being straight, they're shitty being straight, and LGBTQ bullies can bitchy bully everyone, right? And again, otherwise nothing against people with self-respect who respect other people and don't, violate the norms of your culture. They just want the freedom to be themselves and get along with people. That's different than this bitchy bully bullshit going on right now. So back to this article. According to the advocacy group Fair Play for Women, men are trying to invade roller derby, especially in the UK leagues, in the United Kingdom, in England, and so on. Boiled down, roller derby is a points game where jammers push through a pack of skaters and skate a full lap to re-enter the pack. They get points for every opposing team member they pass during the lap, but the physical part comes as the blockers physically block the jammers to keep them from scoring, and that is where the tough physicality comes into the game, right? So you got a picture a bunch of girls separately or a bunch of guys skating around a rink, right? And a bunch of others trying to body check them, physically stop them, right? Now, if you're male and you've got male physiology, you can really hurt somebody this way, right? Especially when it's a sport like roller derby, right? This is a sport where it's happening fast, it's happening quick. You're on roller skates. There's a bunch of confusion going on, a bunch of people around, right? So if you throw an elbow, you could crack someone's skull, right? If you push someone and they fall against the boards or they hit the ground, they could be seriously hurt. So it's better if people are all the same sort of physical level, right? If you've got 5-year-old kids, they play against other 5-year-old kids, boys and girls separate, right? If you've got 10-year-olds, they play against other 10-year-olds, 20-year-olds against other 20-year-olds, right? 55, 60-year-old seniors against other seniors, right? Then you can still get hurt, but there's an appropriate level of risk involved, right? And men and women separate. When it comes to this, there's a massive risk involved, right? And that's why men need to man up to save their women from guys that are all messed up attacking their women, right? And when it comes to their women, right, and their girls, well, generally speaking, there are girls, right? If I'm a Canadian, there are Canadian girls. If you're an American, they're your American girls. If you're Russian, they're your Russian girls. If you're Chinese, they're your Chinese girls, right? If you're a member of the human race, they're your girls as a man. If you're girls, your girl, you might be like, how dare you say that? Like, come on, give me a friggin' break, right? Men want girls. Girls want to be somebody's girls. They'd rather be somebody's girls than nobody's girls. And if they generally feel safe and happy being protected and provided for in a culture, then they can be giving and feminine and attractive and intelligent and graceful and productive and so on, right? That is a healthy way of looking at things. So when it comes to this situation, you can't just be like, so what? I don't know her. Whatever. People do what they want. It's like, no, that is abdicating your responsibility as a member of the human race, and then your specific responsibility as a member of your tribe, be that country or ethnicity or nationality or religion or whatever. That is abdicating your responsibility as a member of that culture, right? And you can see manforwars.com for how bad it can get, and the history of what's been happening sort of locally and in different parts of the world when it comes to this abdication of responsibility, screwing everybody up, right? Men want to feel useful, women want to feel special, and this is how you do it. And these attacks, which aren't just, well, so what if some guy in England wants to go roller derbying with a bunch of girls in England? What's the big deal, right? Look, the big deal is the propaganda associated with pushing this, and the acceptance of this screws up everybody. That's the big deal. There's also a big deal that, some guys are allowed to do this anywhere. But the propaganda of making us all accept this as normal screws everybody up. So that's the bigger deal as opposed to the big deal in and of itself when it comes to this. Now, back to this article. So, it says here, now imagine if skaters who are physically men are the blockers trying to stop the natural-born female jammers. The jammers wouldn't stand a chance pushing past their stronger and faster, biologically male opponents. And you can be like, oh, stronger and faster. Don't say men are stronger and faster. That's so sexist. It's like, grow up. This isn't an achievement. This is an accident of birth, right? What you do with it is the achievement. What you do with it is something to be proud of, right? But the idea of saying, that bigger boxer can beat up that smaller boxer is the reason they have weight classes, right? Floyd Mayweather, best boxer in history, arguably. You can make case for others, Ali, Tyson, whoever, right? But the best boxer in history, Floyd Mayweather, at 49-0 or 50-0 record, perfect record. He's like 5'6", 140 pounds. So how is he the best boxer in history? Because they have weight classes, right? You wouldn't have a 6'5", 250-pound guy allowed to fight against a 5'6", 140-pound guy. Boxing doesn't work that way. UFC, mixed martial arts, doesn't work that way. Physical sports like fighting don't work that way because we all know, logically, that bigger, stronger guys or athletes will beat smaller ones, right? Now, that's the issue here. So this is not an achievement for the guys to get into this roller derby ring and win, because they identify as women. This is basically just cheating, or this is basically men going, all right, so what? I shouldn't be a man. Men suck. I shouldn't be male. Masculinity sucks. Toxic masculinity. Blah blah blah. Okay, fine. Then I'm a girl. Then I'll be the biggest, strongest, baddest ass girl ever. Kick some ass at roller derby. Kick everyone. It's like, what the hell, right? This is the end point of a lot of that brainwashing, which we've got to push back on. You can't just be like, people are people, do what they want. It's like, no. The brainwashing is screwing all of us up, and this is just a major symptom of it. So, despite that, back to the article, leagues all across the UK are falling all over themselves, literally, to appear welcoming and tolerant to transgenders by allowing men claiming to be women to join the leagues, right? So this is about doing the politically correct thing, right? This isn't about looking at most people, where you are, where you live, with what you're doing, and trying to be happy. This is about political correctness. Now, political correctness is a term that came from communist Russia in the early 19th century. That's why it sounds so strange. You're like, if you think about politically correct, what would be politically correct, right? Well, who's in charge of your politics? Your government. So your government is basically controlling your speech, your thought, your actions, right? As opposed to your government is facilitating a free and prosperous and independent and responsible people. So political correctness is when the government decides for you how you're supposed to be, and they want you all to be equal. They want you to, you're not allowed to say this, not allowed to do that, not whatever. So when you see most people in these female roller derby leagues screwed up by political correctness, that is analogous to the communist Russian government in the early 20th century, early 1900s, screwing up everybody with their politically correct policies and enforcement of political correctness there. So it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. It's not meant to help people. Otherwise, you'd have a bunch of nice, happy people, and you'd be able to say, hey, look, dude, if you like roller derbying, if you're cool and you can be cool, then a bunch of guys will let you roller derby with them, right? And we'll figure out what skill level you are, right? Or if you want to be good at being a woman, right? You should still be responsible as a woman, just like you should be responsible as a guy. As I mentioned earlier, bigger guys don't beat up smaller guys and call it a victory. And bigger guys identifying as women shouldn't beat up on smaller women and call it a victory. And yet that is being normalized, and that is what is happening. So back to this article. Effectively, it is no longer an exclusively female sport, Fair Play for Women says. So adding, and this is a Fair Play for Women statement. So this is a group in the UK fighting to have fair play for women when it comes to not allowing trans athletes. And even if you had, for example, a massive 7-foot-tall, 300-pound woman who wanted to compete in this roller derby league, right? She could potentially kill other chicks in there. So she would have to have, as part of that sisterhood, a respect for other women in that league, right? But when it comes to men identifying as women and being hyper-aggressive about it with that male testosterone and that male energy translated into this being their mission, they might kill a chick when it comes to this shit. So anyway, so Fair Play for Women says, adding, Leeds roller derby declares itself open to all female identifying and non-binary skaters. Sheffield Steel Roller Derby says, we welcome all self-identifying women, while Belfast Roller Derby is, quote, open to anyone who identifies as a woman or gender expansive. Edinburgh's Old Reekie League says, those who identify as women, cisgender, transgender, and intersex or gender expansive may train and compete as skaters. London Roller Derby asserts, increasing the awareness of gender identities, we need to be more inclusive of our trans teammates. Well, they're not acting like nice ladies and gents, so why, right? This move to increase, quote, inclusivity is at the heart of the WFTDA gender policy, which has been adopted by the UK RDA. It says, quote, an individual who identifies as a trans woman, intersex woman, and or gender expansive may skate with a WFTDA charter team. So it's also gender expansive. You can basically do whatever you want, right? That's why it's important for most people straight to be great at it, because then people LGBTQ can be too. You can have classy gay guys like Dave Rubin and Douglas Murray, right? You can have reasonable trans women like Blair White, who used to be a man but did a pretty good job being a woman and isn't recommending it, definitely not recommending it for kids, talking about there's some issues and difficulties with it, but wants some sympathy and compassion and just wants to fit in with normal people and try her best to be a woman. That you could maybe accept. But just anybody doing anything to gain some sort of advantage, that is deceitful and cruel as part of this. So back to this article. But some natural-born female contestants are becoming worried about their safety. One female roller derby player told the group that she was blackballed from the Canadian Roller Derby League after becoming alarmed for her safety on the track and then being vocal against allowing men to join the leagues. Quote, they're built like men because they have male bodies, Kate Hansen said about allowing transgender players to compete against natural women. Quote, women who sign up to play women's roller derby expect to be playing women. It wasn't long before her outspoken opposition to transgender players was turned against her and she was banned from the leagues for being a, quote, bigot. Now, this is the difference between acceptance and tolerance and lying, bitchy bullying, right? Because before, there's been for a long time. We've known about drag queens for a while, or transvestites, or transsexuals, or trans whatever, right? And they were always a few people that knew they were in costume and acted like they were in costume. That's why they were a caricature of what a woman is doing, right? They weren't saying, look at me exactly like you look at a hot supermodel from Sports Illustrated or a fashion show or Victoria's Secret. You have to take me that seriously. Like, no, no. I know I'm a little different, but this is what I'm into. Is that okay? And you're like, all right, as long as you're not trying to bully me, push me around, mess with anyone else, sure. Who cares, right? This is the next step from that, right? And in terms of her being called a bigot and banned from other leagues, you know most people in those leagues probably agreed with her, but they were all scared by political correctness to be on her side. Because it's not like she's not reasonable. This woman, Kate Hansen, who was blackballed from the Canadian Roller Derby League, was just like the rest of those Canadian roller derby leaguers, just like the ones in England and other parts of the world. She's from the same stock. She's just one of those people. This is a grown-ass woman who's grown up around those other men and women, and so she's basically the same. So she probably thinks the same as them about a lot of things, including this. The difference is that she was not scared to speak up, and the rest of them are, and that's why she's being blackballed. And this is also why men need to save their women from trans athletes beating the shit out of them, because women are generally more collectivist, herd-like, want to get along, don't want to have a confrontation, don't want to be in a fight, and so on, right? It's not their nature, it's not their role, right? Men are more inclined to do that. Men are more inclined to argue, or if the argument turns physical, be prepared to handle it, or have their physicality as a deterrent against a verbal argument turning physical. There's that male role. So, and even in terms of looking into things deeper, right? Even in terms of looking into more serious issues, in terms of taking more time, in terms of risking more when it comes to your freedom and security and prosperity and life and so on. That's more of a male thing to do. So you can't just ask women to get out there and defend themselves against trans athletes, men acting like women one way or another, right? And if they're super serious about it and super good at it, I'll give them some credit for it. I'll give you some props, dap you up, you know? But if you're not, then you're full of shit and a waste of time, right? You're making us like something that nobody likes, and you're probably feeling suicidal when you're not getting away into bullying people into putting up with you, as many studies reveal about this type of lifestyle. So I feel bad for this Kate Hansen girl. I'm like, Kate Hansen, men need to man up and make sure that you can comfortably and happily roller derby with a bunch of your girlfriends and not be kicked out because you're making sense and you're saving some of your fellow roller derby chicks from being killed, or the whole sport from getting screwed up and being no fun to play anymore by these guys coming in and trying to compete. So back to this article, another Canadian player, Lara Kendall, agreed with Hansen. Quote, "The biological strength of men alone gives them an advantage, and the patriarchy affords social and financial advantages for men that keep the top positions male-dominated. I play roller derby, and men in female sports teams is not fair," she said. And yeah, sure. Let's just say the patriarchy gives us certain social and financial privileges. Let's say we've been given, so fine, we have to be responsible. That's the issue. Right? The issue isn't men suck, men suck. What are men doing with their strength, with their power, with their abilities? Right? That is what will get men respect to battle against this propaganda. Right? I've done this myself, with girls, right? Because I'm gender responsible, not gender equal or neutral, where we're all messed up girls. Instead of acting like and putting up with messed up girls, men are supposed to make sure no one does. That is gender responsible. Don't act like a bitch or a bitch's bitch who makes more bitches and make more bitches. Don't bitch out. Let your boys, girls, or kids bitch out. Gender responsible. Confident masculine strength. Guys cool. Don't lie. Look a man in the eye. Firm handshake. Polite, brief, busy, or friendly. to be respected, keep it moving. Girls, same, or confident feminine vulnerability. They can relax. There's the double standard there. Not going to bark as loud, not going to be as physical, not going to move as fast, going to be more relaxed. She can be more relaxed in good company, put a scope both in a good mood. Boom, 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 right? And, I recall being just near Queen Street West or King Street West in Spadina in downtown Toronto, like a year ago or something. And I was filming some of what's going on in the public out there with my laptop. It started raining. There was an umbrella there. A cute girl, a cute Asian girl, younger than me, in her early 20s, mid 20s, ran over and ran underneath the umbrella where I was because it had started raining. And I packed up my laptop and I was chilling, and she was there and she was chilling, so I chilled out. Boom, cool. She chilled out, cool. And then we started chatting with each other and so on. And I explained to her what I was doing. I'm trying to promote, nice ladies and gents and confident masculine strength, feminine vulnerability, blah, blah, blah. And she, kind of went, oh, okay, you're one of those guys who believes in that sort of thing. So she steeled herself a bit to say, well, what do you think about male privilege, right? And she was a little bit up. Like, okay, so we're going to have to argue about this because I'm going to come at you with some male privilege stuff, right? And she said, well, what do you think about that? And I was like, it's great. It's fantastic. It's a privilege to be a male. Badass dude. Other guys, cool. Great, right? Girls, privileged to be with a nice young lady where I can be good at being a man, and I can be privileged to be with someone who's good at being a woman or a female, and attractive and graceful and intelligent and thoughtful. And it's fantastic. I love it. I love my male privilege. It's awesome. Right? And other people, other guys respect it when we can be cool. They know we can be cool. And other girls love it too, where they're like, oh, he's a guy. I can be good at being a girl with this guy who's good at being a guy. It's fantastic. So this early mid-20s woman who was approaching me like we might argue about this was completely disarmed. Instead of being up, and what do you think about this, male privilege? She relaxed. She was cute, feminine. She was like, oh, okay, you're one of those. She didn't say it, but she acted like it. Oh, you're one of those guys. She thoughtfully looked away. She, her boobs popped out a bit, her hip popped out. She slumped over. She was just attractive, doing what she was doing, kind of thinking about it. I noticed her. You don't look like the sun. You notice. I noticed her being attractive and more attractive. That's a disarming of that, right? But you have to have some pride in being a man. You have to be responsible for other men and women and children and who you are and where you live and making sure you're cool, others are cool, where you live, where you are is cool, all that sort of thing. So taking on this issue is a key part of that, right? And getting respect for it. And then even if chicks are all hopped up on some propaganda, they'll be like, you know what? Instead of arguing with you and fighting with you, I can just relax and be good at being a girl with you and be thoughtful and intelligent. We still discussed, we had some conversations, but she knew that she could relax and be a girl and be treated well for it, as opposed to having to fight against a man who's no good at it, right? So you can take the edge off some of this propaganda if you're any good at it and if you've got some pride, right? So back to this article here. It says at least 2 recent studies support the players in their opinion that transgender athletes are still physically men with all the requisite strength, power, speed, and musculature, right? So they might be like, well, I'm a girl now. I've been popping some estrogen pills. I've been taking my, I'm on birth control. I'm not having my period anymore. You never had your period, dude. Oh, come on, I'm a girl. It's like, wait a second. It's not that easy to change historically male biology for 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life and suddenly be like, now I'm a woman. Yep, 100% all natural woman. You make me feel like a natural woman. It's not possible, right, to change that fast. So you can act like it. You can say, treat me like it. But first of all, a lot of them aren't serious, right? They're just messed up guys. And second of all, even if they take it super serious, it's hard to change your physiology and your biology and your body's chemistry and your bone density and your upper body strength and your muscle mass and all the other factors. It's hard to change that really, really fast, even if you've been on hormones for a few months. So back to this article. It says here, a recent study by researchers at New Zealand's University of Otago concluded that men claiming to be transgender women do not lose their male strengths despite testosterone loss, hormone therapy, and transgender surgeries. The researchers concluded that, quote, healthy young men did not lose significant muscle mass or power when their circulating testosterone levels were reduced. So even if you reduce testosterone, it doesn't mean you suddenly shrink, right? That happens when you're really old, right? They say after the age of 25, you naturally gain a half a pound of fat and lose a half a pound of muscle. But if you're living an active lifestyle and you're working out and you're eating right and you're doing this and that, you can kind of battle against that. But when it comes to men, your physical peak is at whatever. But just because you're taking estrogen or whatever, it doesn't suddenly stop the amount of testosterone you've accumulated in your body over decades, right? Another study found that transgender transitioning procedures do not obviate a male body's strength. So they have to use scientific studies to try to convince people of what is pretty bloody obvious, right? A study conducted by the Swedish Karolinska Institute and Linköping University found that even after a full year of hormone therapy, transgender women still retain their male strength and muscle mass. Quote, despite the robust increases in muscle mass and strength in TM, transgender men, the TW, transgender women, were still stronger and had more muscle mass following 12 months of treatment, the researchers found. These findings add new knowledge that could be relevant when evaluating a trans woman's eligibility to compete in the women's category of athletic competitions, right? So basically, they're saying, it appears to me, that if you're a woman and you get jacked up on testosterone, you've seen some female bodybuilders, for example, you get jacked up on testosterone or steroids and so on, you can take your tiny amount of testosterone and double, triple, quadruple it, and you can start adding muscle mass with training at a pretty substantial rate. If you've seen female bodybuilders posing and all that, you can see, with ripped abs and delts or whatever, not fitness athletes that are trying to be lean and fit, but bodybuilders that are trying to go for a lot of mass and size and muscular definition, right? They can increase their muscle mass substantially. Women can increase it substantially. But men, born as men, switching to try to be a woman for a year or so, they can't decrease their muscle mass or bone density substantially. It doesn't work like that, right? They might be able to increase some of their feminine traits. Maybe their facial hair won't grow as much. Maybe their voice will go up, and so on. With the hormone treatments, but they can't take enough female hormones to possibly turn their male biology built over decades into female biology that fast. It doesn't work like that. And that's the problem. The problem is the lack of fairness in this situation. That is the big issue, is the lack of fairness. It's the lack of sense. Typically, when you're dealing with people, you want them to be honest. Now, these days, there's a lot of miserable, weak line, bitchy, bully shit going on. And so people aren't honest with themselves, aren't honest with each other, and this is part of that symptom. But if these guys were honest, if I as a man was to say, you know what, I feel like being a woman, right? Boom. I want to go through the procedures. I want to shave this, do that, put on this, blah, 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 take some hormones, think about surgery, and so on, right? It would still behoove me to be honest and say, look, I've been a man for too long to, throw an elbow at your head in a female roller derby rink. I've just been a man for too long, right? I want to be good at being a woman. I want to be graceful and feminine. I want to be appropriate for my age, my looks, my relationships, the situation we're in. I want people to treat me well, right? And this is also why it's important for most people straight to be great at it, because then there's an incentive for men who want to be women to kind of fit in and be treated well that way, right? But without that, that it's every miserable, weak lion, bitchy bully for themselves. And then the worst examples, bully everyone else, and they set the standard for everyone else to be the worst examples and the worst versions of themselves. And that's what's going on. You can check out manforwars.com for more on that. Another site I'd like to recommend is sexchangeregret.com. It's the great work of Walt Heyer, Waltheyer. You can find some of his videos on YouTube and other platforms. And you can see Walt Heyer's a good guy. But briefly speaking, he had some issues as a kid. He was dressed as a girl by his grandma because his grandma wanted a granddaughter but got a grandson. But when he was 2, 3, she was like, screw it, I wanted a girl. I'm going to put him in girl's clothing. As a result of that, he was molested by a cousin of his who was like, hee, you're a girl, I'm going to molest you. Like, that's no reason to molest him. But that's what happened. Older kid, cousin doing it to younger kid. His relationship with his parents wasn't good. They were kind of abusive, neglectful. But he was still a good guy. And you can tell he's a good guy to this day. So then went to high school, competed in sports, went to college, met a girl. But while he was doing all this, he had some thoughts in his mind. Maybe I'm a girl. Maybe if I'm a girl, people will like me. Maybe if I'm a girl, my parents would have liked me. Maybe if I'm a girl, my grandma would have liked me more. Maybe if I was a girl, my cousin wouldn't have molested me. So he had in his mind, because of the abuse and the gender dysphoria, he had these thoughts in his mind of being a girl. But as a good guy, Walt Heyer at sexchangeregret.com told his girlfriend in college, because they were going steady, and they were 60s, 70s, or maybe 60s or whatever. And he was like, honey, I love you. We're dating, and we're dating with the goal of marrying. But I'm warning you, I've got these thoughts in my mind that make me think I want to be a girl, right? And she, being his college sweetheart, was like, well, I appreciate your honesty, but don't worry. Once we get married and have kids, our love and our family relationship and our children will, make sure that those thoughts go away. And whatever happened to you when you were younger will be gone by the time, our relationship is developed. And so Walt was like, okay, cool, honey. I'll go with that since we're dating. So boom. So got married to her, had a couple of kids, but but never had the psychological treatment to deal with the issues that he suffered, right? So after getting married, having 2 kids, working as an automobile executive, he decided, you know what, I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch my genders, right? So he told his wife, his kids, family, they were all devastated. He went and he went to a therapist. The therapist affirmed his gender right away. Didn't do well, hold on, what else is going on? Are you depressed? Are you suicidal? Are you miserable? Are you suffering from any personality disorders? Do you have some other issues we need to look at? Doctor was just like, nope, no problem. We'll take care of this, right? You can afford the surgery? Boom, we'll take care of it. So they put him on hormone therapy. He went through the surgery. And then in the early 1980s, he switched from being Walt Heyer to being a female, right? Laura Jensen was his name, right? And as Laura Jensen in the early 80s, he went back to work at the automobile company after going on vacation and doing the surgery. Boom, fired, right? So what are you doing? This is crazy, right? Fired, gone, right? And then he said about life as a transgender. He said, for the first year or two, the transgender community kind of blows smoke up your ass, right? The sort of activist community. They blow smoke up your ass and they say, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, you're so wonderful. Oh, you're so this. Oh, you're so that. Oh, you're just gorgeous. Oh, you look like Marilyn Monroe. Oh, you look like Audrey Hepburn. Oh my God, you're so gorgeous. You're a classic beauty. Oh my goodness. But after a year or two, it sort of wears off. You're not the new tranny on the block anymore, right? So there's only so much that this activist circle, transgender support circle can do for you. So he said after the first year or two of them blowing smoke up my ass, I was depressed. I was like, ugh, I'm depressed. I'm a mess, right? So then he described, so he talked about that, and that happens in other transgender communities to this day, where the same thing happens, right? And then, because he still does work on this, it's sexchangeregret.com, so it's not like it's not outdated. It's just the nature of the biz, right? And then he says, as a transgender woman, he also he did not want to have sex with other guys. He wasn't a transgender woman that was like, I'm going to take the hormones, I'm going to have the surgery, get rid of my genitals, put some female genitals there, and so on. And now I want to go and bang some guys, or I want to be a slut and bang a bunch of guys, or I want to be a hooker or a prostitute, or I want to be a nice girl who settles down and gets married with some guy. He didn't want any of that. He just wanted to be looked at like he was a girl, right? He just wanted to be looked at like he was a girl. So he'd wake up in the morning and he'd look in the mirror and he'd do his makeup and he'd put on his dress and all this. And he was like, oh my goodness, okay. I hope when I walk outside that people look at me like I'm a girl. That was his only goal. That was his life goal. His goal in life was for people to look at him like he was a girl. But there's some problems with this, right? One, he kind of could pass a bit if he took it seriously enough as sort of a middle-aged, chick, but kind of guyish, you can kind of tell or whatever, right? But because he knew that he'd done the surgery and done all this stuff, he could never quite be happy with this pursuit, right? He's always trying. Like with me, I'm never like, gee, I hope people think I'm a man. When I leave my house, I hope people think I'm a man. When I go, I hope people think I'm a man. If I go here, it's never a concern. It's never, ever a concern, right? But with him, it was always a concern. And that concern drives people crazy, can drive people to suicide. It's 20 times the normal suicide rate. A study of 17,000 transgenders in America found 40% had attempted suicide among a bunch of other problems. And it isn't because they're bullied by other people and they're not accepted and they're beaten and they're kicked. None of that shit. It's because they're not comfortable in their own skin. They're not comfortable with who they are, the decision they've made. They're not comfortable interacting with other people. That's the issue, right? That's why they can't be responsible adults in many cases, right? And so Walt Heyer would he'd go to the store. Should I buy the green blouse or the yellow blouse? And the salesperson would be like, oh, I think the green one looks better. Oh, thanks, you flatter me, right? And then he couldn't tell. Was he just being a nice guy, right, and lying to me, right? When he treated me like a woman, or was I lying to him when I was trying to get him to treat me like a woman? Like he wasn't comfortable with that, being fundamentally a good guy and going through this experience. And even to this day, with this sort of Instagram culture and guys getting on Instagram and everybody having the same silly smile on Instagram and everybody doing the same thing and hey, ooh, look at me. A bunch of normal guys are being transwashed into wanting everyone looking at them. When typically, guys don't want to look at each other. Girls don't want to look at guys that much. Kids don't, right? Men are polite and busy or friendly to be respected. Women the same, or they're gracefully distracting. They can corner your eye. Whoa. Hey, she's walking slow, looking cool, trying to feel hot. All right, I'm going to play it cool. I'm going to look down a bit, make sure she's comfortable, not going to mess with her. Her head's going to pop up a bit. She's going to get more confident. Oh, he's checking me out. Cool. He's being nice about it. Cool. I'll be cute about it, right? That's the thing, right? Or if you go on Instagram, you'll have Instagram girls, with millions of followers and posting up a picture every day or every couple of days saying, hey, hot girl. And they'll have guys who've never met him before, never done anything, right? Maybe a couple of direct messages or a couple of comments buying them shit. Why? Because we like to look at girls. You don't have other guys buying other guys shit because of how they look on Instagram. You don't have girls buying guys shit because of how they look on Instagram. We don't do that, right? So my point in saying this is that guys are getting brainwashed and transwashed. They're getting trans, girl, gay washed, everything but guy washed. And they're acting like this. And they don't want to look at each other and nobody wants to look at them and it's driving them crazy. And so reflecting on Walt Heyer's experiences as a guy who went through this process, and that's all he wanted was to go walk around and be like, hope you think I'm a woman, 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 right? Just look at me like a woman just for a sec. That's all I dream about every day. Normal men are being brainwashed into that as part of the Instagram narcissistic selfie culture as well. And they're in the fashion, the pushing of fashion and the androgyny in fashion, and the guys should be more like girls and girls should be more like guys. And so that's screwing people up because there's no one wants to look at you. So what are you going to do, right? Maybe some of these guys who tried that for a while are like, well, fine, I'll just go all the way trans. Still, What are you going to do? You're going to be miserable about it anyway, right? Typically, you know. Now, as I said, if most people straight are great at it, some LGBTQ can be too, and I'm fine with making exceptions for a handful of people. But this is not something that most people should be going along with and endorsing. And certainly when it comes to the trans athlete bitchy bullying, threatening women physically, this is something that men should resist. So anyway, wrapping up Waltire, he eventually discovered psychology and psychotherapy and the term gender dysphoria, where psychologists and psychotherapists and psychiatrists have come up with this as a mental illness condition. Discovered that, discovered therapy, discovered religion, Christianity, and then switched back from Waltire to Laura Jensen, back to Waltire. Settled down with a nice girl, got married, and now runs sexchangeregret.com to help other people dealing with these issues, right? Young people, old people, lots of trans people not happy with the fact they switched, who want some advice, want to switch back, because it's promised that you'll be happier, right? And just like this, just like they might promise these trans roller derby athletes, right? Yeah, if you get in there with the girls and you mix it up and you beat a bunch of girls at physical sports, you'll be happier. No, you won't be happier. You'll only be happier because the initial politically correct push to get you to do it is behind you and you've got people cheering. But fundamentally, that'll wear off and you yourself won't be happier because you haven't achieved anything. You aren't being responsible with your size and strength. You aren't getting positive validation from your peers except for politically correct forced validation. And even then, it's kind of hollow, because people have to be fake with you and you have to be fake with them. So this isn't like most people, normal, happy, nice, straight, great at it. And then some LGBTQ, they can be good at it too. They fit into being good. Gay guys, still cool guy, nice guy, not lying, bitchy, bully mess, right? Girl wants to be a guy, or lesbian, fine, still a girl, nice girl, not lying, bitchy, bully mess, right? Trans, whatever. Girl turns into a guy, works at a construction site, good at it, copies straight guys, good at it, and fits in. You shrug your shoulders. It happens. Or guy wants to be a girl, good at it, chilled out, appropriate for their age, looks, relationship size, strength, and so on, right? That's different, right? That's a lot different, right? So the current brainwashing is making normal guys do that, where a bunch of normal guys are obsessed with trying to get people to look at them, and because they don't want people, nobody wants to look at them, they have to force you to look at them. And when they force you to look at them, it's uncomfortable, it's threatening, it's intimidating. You don't show any respect, you don't get any respect. All men want is respect. As an article from the BBC called "The Surrendered Wife," where there's a woman who's like, you know what, I'm going to put my man in charge, and then sneakily of making sure I'm happy. But she says, you know what, I was taught by our culture to fight with men, but then I realized, that's a horrible idea. And so now I realized that respect for men is like oxygen. Without it, they die, right? And that's why you see so many men dropping dead these days, right? They're dying on their feet because of this type of brainwashing. So when it comes to this, what I recommend is I recommend men man up and understand the roots of this. Who wants this happening? Who has the power to push this agenda, right? How did this come out of nowhere, right? How is it that, black groups, black people, as 5, 10, 15% of the population in different Western countries, America, Canada, whatever, they are still struggling for what they need. Native populations, indigenous populations, 2-3% of different cultures, Canada, Australia, America, they're struggling for what they need. Different groups are struggling. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 0.02% of the population of different countries, a fraction of 1% of the population of the world suddenly has the most political and cultural and government and media and education sanctioned power in the world. How'd that happen? Right? There's not a history of trans people working on this for years and having success after success after success. and then building to the point where they've got, all the major corporations in the world, the big banks in the world, the big industries, governments, media, education. Everybody's bending over backwards to accommodate them. How did this tiny fraction of people get this much political power? How did they get this much political support from all these different groups and stakeholders, right? That is globalism. That is the New World Order, the Illuminati, the satanic pedophile elites. That's who that is, empowering this group of people. That's why. And they're not doing it because they care about these people. They're doing it because it screws everyone else up and makes everyone else easier to control. They're even invisible. They're even invisible people because you typically don't run into them. There's not that many. They're a tiny fraction of 1%, right? There's a bunch of propaganda around black guys and black people. You can just talk to one. There's someone over there. Hey, man, I heard about this, or you could interact with them, or they could push back against it themselves. But with the invisible trans people, there are people that'll say they need this, they need that, they're all messed up, they need special this, they want to whatever. But if you actually meet one, and they're reasonable, sensible enough to get along with other people, then they're just like every other minority group. That's like, I don't want special treatment. I don't want you to be all weird around me. I don't want you to be all fake around me. I don't want you to be scared to talk to me or discuss things around me. I just want to be like everybody else. I want to fit in and get along and joke around and make a little love, make a little money, make a few mistakes and be cool with people. I don't want this big fuss made about me, right? That's why this group is chosen to have a big fuss made about it, because there aren't enough normal individuals as part of this minority group to push back. Plus, the destruction of gender roles and gender norms destroys respect that everyone can show for everyone. That means we don't have self-respect, egos lower, weaker, easier to control. We don't show and get it, can't look at, talk to each other, communicate as well comfortably, don't feel like listening to each other, reduction of the language as part of social media, other factors, chemicals in the environment and food and whatever, and brainwashing, blah, 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 blah. But that's why this agenda is being pushed, right? So ultimately, this is men against the globalist, satanic, pedophile, Illuminati, New World Order on behalf of other men, women, and children and where they live, their family, friends, and future, right? That's what this comes down to. That's why this issue is important. That's why it's like, so what? So you keep saying so, and it eventually catches up to you because it'll hit you. It'll hit you. You'll get screwed up, or people you're with will get screwed up, and you've got to fashionably act screwed up with other people who are screwed up, and then you're screwed up. And then you screw other people up because you're screwed up. That's what happens, right? So, for men out there, definitely take leadership roles in this to preserve your masculinity. So other guys can respect you, and girls and kids can respect you, and most importantly, to start off, you have self-respect. You don't lose your self-respect and then take other people's self-respect as part of this process, which is, I think, what's happening when it comes to this roller derby article. Like, this does not strike me as men or women being fair, having self-respect, and respecting others. This is people with no self-respect bullying others and screwing them up, right? And so when it comes to the information war online, obviously, you've got videos, you've got social media, you've got podcasts, you can get the word out there, but it's also censored or splintered into digital ghettos. So then you've got the offline information war, right? That means offline, locally where you live, you handle your business, right? Men can bring back their code of the streets. What's the code of the streets? The code of the streets is you make sure that everybody where you live knows how to respect each other and get along, so it's a nice place to live, right? As a man, I know it's, what are you looking at? Not, why aren't you looking at me? What are you looking at? Not, why aren't you looking at me? Or if someone's sheepish, sideways, hey, why are you reaching? Why are you reaching? What are you doing? Don't make me nervous. What are you doing? Knock it off, right? That's a man role, right? Guys don't, I was looking at Tim Hortons behind a guy in Scarborough when I was in high school. And I was just, I wonder if I should get a coffee. And some guys look at me, what are you looking at? I was like, oh, nothing, man, nothing. Just looking at Tim Hortons. They're going to get a coffee. Yeah, you better be. I was like, yeah, that's the rules, right? Um, Unless you're super serious about being a girl, in which case you wouldn't have to, force people to look at you, or it wouldn't be a question. It would be appropriate for your age, looks, relationship situation to have that type of friendly interaction with somebody where you think you can, right? Um, so you bring back the code of the streets where you live to make sure that locally we are nice ladies and gents teaching kids to be. It's not uncomfortable to be outside. We're not bumping into each other and bullying each other and acting rude and sketchy with each other and making each other uncomfortable and raising kids to, right? No, no, no. This is a great place to live. It's a great place to walk around. I mean, we help each other out. We have self-respect. We respect each other. It's a fun environment to be in, right? It's not crowded in the way that it's crowded. It's busy. Hey, it's busy. It's nice. Lots of people there having a good time, right? That's part of the code of the streets. So men bring back the code of the streets where they live, right? You can promote be nice, which everyone likes, or be polite, polite patriotism. And you say, yep, everybody likes it, no complaints, we all want it. You promote it on the streets, at malls, and wherever, you get behind those efforts. And everybody, who's going to stop? Who's going to say no, right? So you promote be nice, which everybody likes. And then as people are more empowered, it's easier to say, hey, take this seriously, or let's get bad guys, right? And that is also meetings, meet together, especially men, fight club style with other men, no double standard, girls there, no, oh, don't talk about that, the girl's here, she'll be uncomfortable. It's like, screw you, pussy, man up. Let's get into this and get out of it, right? The guys can do that, definitely, right? And then you've got meetings, you've got meet and greet tables, you set up table, boom, 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 people come, they take your information, there's street preachers, offline information war preachers saying, well, here's some different ideas about health and about the world and about politics and culture and religion, and here's some websites, here's some posters, flyers, DVDs, you can put up posters, pass out flyers, so on. I did this with a group called Toronto Truth Seekers a few years ago. We did such a great job. We were on the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, mainstream TV. They covered us because so many people were grateful for us being there. Thousands of parents coming to us for information to help out their kids and others. And we were just cool. We were cool with each other. We were cool with people that were cool with us. The people that weren't cool looked like shit compared to us. So we convinced everyone else that we were cool and they could be cool either doing their own thing or interacting with us. And any weirdos that had a problem with us were more messed up than the rest of us wanted to be, right? So you can make a positive impression locally, offline, where you live. And I think that's key, right? And I think men will get respect from other men for taking on these issues, and from women and from children. Now, there are risks involved, no doubt about that. But that's part of the fun. That's part of the game. That's part of the feeling your oats. That's part of the feeling your balls, right? Instead of feeling useless, men want to feel useful, women want to feel special, and this is an important way to flex when it comes to that. So, anyway, I just wanted to expand on that. I'll post a link to this article below. But yeah, as I said, will men save women from trans athletes beating the shit out of them is, I think, one of the defining questions of the 21st century. If we do, then I think we'll be fine. I think we'll all be fine. If we don't, then I think blowback's a bitch, right? When women sense their man's a bitch or bitching out, guess what they are? They're a bitch. What else is anybody gonna be with a bitch except for a bitch, right? So it's one way or the other, And there you have it. Anyway, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with questions, answers, ways to work together, or ideas to work together, or financial support. Otherwise, BK Krishna from manforwars.com. Hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.